I'm getting approached right now by people who are saying, Lee, I don't know whether I should stay in business or not. And I suspect you're going to get approached by a lot more people through it as this year progresses. How do you approach helping somebody make that decision?
I think there's many factors for it, because sometimes the issue to stay relevant is very, very, very expensive.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So, and what I mean by staying relevant is, if you really want to stay in business, you have to invest in branding. You have to invest in things that you're not going to see today. You have to invest in things that you have to wait and see if what you've done is actually going to be harvested in 3 years' time, or you're going to see the best out of it. So
100%.
if you don't have that, just walk away.
Hey friends, it's Lee Safar here with some exciting news. The introduction to regenerative coffee farming workshops are now available on demand in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. These workshops are designed to give you actionable insights into the future of coffee farming through regenerative agriculture. Whether you're a coffee producer, roaster, cafe owner, or just passionate about coffee sustainability. For coffee producers, the workshop is available for just $10, and for everyone else, it's $20. A small price to pay for knowledge that could transform your understanding of what it's going to take to grow coffee from now on. Led by our incredible professors Angela Barrero, Murilo Bettarello, Felipe Croce, Carlos Ordóñez, and João Araújo, the workshop is packed with practical knowledge and strategies to help coffee farmers and the entire coffee industry adapt to the challenges of climate change, rising costs, and market demands. If you're a business owner, this workshop is a great and affordable way to inform your employees about the challenges ahead while also supporting Map It Forward. This is also a great workshop to share with or gift to your coffee producers. Head to mapitforward.coffee/workshops or click the link in the description to purchase the on-demand version and start your journey towards a more sustainable coffee future today. Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Map It Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and this is episode 2 of a 5-part series with Nawar Adra from Stitch Coffee and Eker in Sydney, Australia, as well as in China, as well as in Japan. In this series, we're talking about the reality of market volatility for coffee businesses in 2025. And in this specific episode, we're talking about how to make decisions in times of volatility. Folks, I have a very tight group of people who I go to for advice. I keep my circle very, very tight, and I am really proud to say that Nawar's one of those people that I go to. We bounce a lot of ideas around, between each other. Nawar's a trusted friend, a trusted business advisor, but also he is somebody who does consulting with Map It Forward for our clients. And so I trust the way that Nawar makes decisions for a variety of reasons. One of them is because I know his head and his heart. I've watched him build things. I've watched him fail. I've watched him succeed. I've watched him make choices that I would never have made, and he was on the money. So
I hope so. Was I? No.
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But that's what makes like our conversations over the past 10 plus years so invigorating and so like rich, because we've been learning how to do this entrepreneurship thing together, and we are the kind of people who take chances and go in the opposite direction that most trends are going. So my question to you is, in a year where, as you said in the last episode, what you're observing that's different this year is, more price volatility, more anxiety in the market and amongst business owners. There's technology is rapidly shifting. We're about to see the reality of people's green coffee positions being really made obvious and exposed to the world. We're getting closer to that. How do you approach, with all of this that's going on, how do you approach making decisions?
I mean, it's a big question, but, it's the interesting part. There is nothing new that you're going to recreate or regenerate. It's just going back to the basic and really understand your business performance from financials to operations to logistics, like really understand what's actually going on in your business. So really knowing your numbers, your data, having a very, very good accountant, very, very good people in your team that understand the financial aspects of the company, really good team that is willing to do things differently as well. Like, don't stick to Brazil if you can't afford it. Let's try to find a new origin that could taste like Brazil. We can tweak it, we can adjust it. So I think the most important basic is really the data-driven decision, is just understanding the simple format, first in, first out, knowing your inventory, knowing your stock control, your cash flow is probably the most important out of all of them, making sure all your client is not like all your invoices is paid within 5 days. If you can make it even on the spot, then you're going to survive this because your cash flow is healthy. Like the thing is, again, you're not going to bring something out of context. The thing is, it's always been there. It's just the room for error was a lot bigger, right? Now the room for error is so tiny, you cannot afford not to know all this.
At all. And one of the things that I think is going to be aligned with the kind of thing, the sentiment that you were talking about in the last episode, which was like, come June, July, we're going to see how much coffee people don't have in their warehouses anymore. I think the other thing that we're going to see as we progress through this year is how much or how little people were connected to the bones of their business.
100%. And if you don't have her,
there's no time to adjust.
No time to adjust. You have to do it as soon as possible. You have to have the right softwares. You have to have the right data. And it takes time. Like, Unleash takes time to put it into the system. Zero takes time. Understanding all those kind of stuff takes time. They're not walk in the park, but if you don't do it, it's just, there's no room anymore. Decision making these days must and should be based on understanding all the data in the business, and that doesn't mean just financials. It needs to really, really be understand across all the aspects of what you do. From cost of goods, labor cost, even from the way you operate, the logistical cost as well, your inventory, really learning how to think in advance, especially if you're a coffee roaster, to really know, okay, how do I adjust myself? How do I reconfigure my blends? How do I change my buying? The thing is, no matter what you do, there's no cheap coffee. So it just doesn't exist. You just might have to change a little bit your tactics, and all the relationship you had throughout the years. This is the time for all these relationships to shine. That will tell you how good was your supply chain operation in the past, so.
I want to have a difficult conversation with you about a specific decision that people have to make that is perhaps really hard, but people listening may need some advice on this. How do people approach the decision whether to stay in business or to not stay in business?
It was very tough for me because I think I'm going to stay in business no matter what.
Well, people like you and I do, right? But there are people out there that, and I suspect that, well, I know I'm getting approached right now by people who are saying, Lee, I don't know whether I should stay in business or not. And I suspect you're going to get approached by a lot more people throughout as this year progresses. How do you approach helping somebody make that decision?
I think there's many factors for it, because sometimes the issue to stay relevant is very, very, very expensive. Right. Yeah. So, and what I mean by staying relevant is, if you really want to stay in business, you have to invest in branding. You have to invest in things that you're not going to see today. You have to invest in things that you have to wait and see if if what you've done is actually going to be harvested in 3 years' time, or you're going to see the best out of it. So
100%.
if you don't have that, just walk away. It's probably a lot, a lot better for you as a person, because it's going to be very, very stressful. Otherwise, if you don't know, if you can't handle the stress, the financials are not there, it's really not easy.
The cost of surviving this year is going to be much, much, much more expensive than it has been surviving other years.
Yeah, 100%. And everything is tripling and costing way, way more than what it was, So that's what I mean. Staying relevant is very, very expensive. And to be able to reinvent yourself, it does require not just financial. Money comes and go maybe in some places, but you really need to have a proper vision that could get the right team together, and you really, if you're not good at building culture as well, it's going to be very, very difficult to be in it. So better to let go out there, learn it, and come back. It's probably better to go and learn from other people's mistakes sometimes. You're never going to take a step back unless you're pushing yourself with the knowledge. So you have to really choose. You can either have the knowledge that you want to pay for it yourself through your time and years and money and hard work, or you would rather go somewhere else where they're already established and learn the knowledge from them. And then whenever you're ready to go back to it, you can always go back and say, okay, this is what I've learned throughout this. Now it's time for me to move on. So you're never gonna lose, as long as your thought process is knowledge, is what knowledge am I gaining by taking a different step and different approach. So even you close your business, there's nothing to lose. If there is better knowledge out there, why wasting your time doing your own business,
And there is a difference in closing with dignity versus closing without dignity. You see,
100%.
You see people, like, the difference is a business owner that pays out their staff's wages for their notice period. They pay their invoices and they close things off in a way that leaves the door open for them being able to come back and maintain the relationships that they have. That's so much dignity in that, especially in a year like 2025. People understand that this is what's happening. The other side of that coin is when your staff turns up to work and there's a sign on the door that says permanently closed, and you've disappeared into the shadows and you owe tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, that's not the right way.
And we've seen that happen so much through our careers, haven't we, Nawar?
I mean, the thing with another bigger industry, but I'm not familiar with all the industry around the world, but hospitality, I could tell you, like, sometimes you'll be sitting down with people we work with, and I'm just trying to understand their decision making sometimes. But sometimes I'm looking at them like, I have a feeling that this person actually been burnt out so much with bad people they worked for or they worked with.
Exactly.
That they don't even trust anybody anymore.
Right, right. And what's really an important part of that is surrounding yourselves with the right people. If you're and not just like in this moment, it's why we go on and on this podcast about have good people around you. Keep your circle tight, have good people around you. Make sure that the people that you do go to for advice are not going to be scared to challenge you. Nawar has no fucking problem challenging me. And likewise, because we want the best for each other. And it's important that the people who are advising you, the people who are pushing you, are also the same people that are going to say to you, hey, listen, you're headed for a brick wall. If you do this, you're headed for a brick wall. How are you going to manage that before you get there? And unfortunately, what I think is there's so much ego in our industry that people perhaps need to win rather than need to do things the right way, so that they don't, because people suffer from FOMO, right? They want to keep up with the trends. Business most of the time is really boring. It should be really boring if you want to be successful, right, Nawar?
Yeah. You have to push yourself, I mean.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask you is around your staff. When it comes to making decisions in a moment like this, where do you prioritize the culture of the business internally in the way that you navigate this time? Are you looking out for the business first, or your staff first, or your customers first?
It's a very good question. The thing is, you can't segregate three of them. They're all part of, I
There's
think
an
it's,
overlap.
yeah, I think you need to have the stakeholder approach. So you pretty much look at all the stakeholders, everyone who is involved
Mm-hmm.
in your business, and you just have to align all of them. I think customer on its own is not good enough. I think this is, because I think the customer experience is the trigger of whatever you've done here. This is gonna translate there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, you can't just be customer focused and your people are not happy. It's just not gonna make sense, right?
Right.
You can't make people happy within your business if your supply chain is not sorted, right, in a very, very good way, where you're constantly having goods, you're constantly supplying your store, you're constantly able to make them come to work and feel like they are part of something bigger than just going to a coffee shop or working within the hospitality industry. So I think you need to look at it from different areas of the business, and it's not going to be the same. It's very difficult, I think, to get people who work in a corporate or are in the office format to have exactly the same culture as the cafe. Like, it's
Not going to happen.
It might not work, but at least they have similar values. They might have different jokes, and here then different jokes to there. They might joke to each other differently. They might be conversational to each other differently. But, the most important part actually is communication across all of them, because that's probably one of the hardest thing is to really establish a very strong communication channels between different departments or different areas of the business. Like, and especially in hospitality, like, you do have Slack. Sometimes you do have a software that should enhance the communication between them, but you're always gonna have people that never looked at it. You always have people who doesn't really care. They still want to do message. You know what I mean? Like, even though you try to build for them a space where everybody is actually approachable, like you can text me at any moment. Like, you don't need to have my number. You don't need to, like, it's such a great tool to be accessible to everyone. But still, people, like, this is on its own is a challenge. So communication, I think, is the most important key to bring everybody on the table together, so they can have one single discussion rather than millions of it scattered across all different way of communicating with each other. So to answer you, I think it needs to be a super hybrid in approach. It needs to have everybody involved. It needs to start from the top all the way to the bottom as well, but also, how do you engage them together? From there, at least you have and it's not going to happen straight away. I'm telling you, there's going to be resistance. There's going to be things that are not going to go in the right direction straight away, but you have to allow it time, and you have to allow more resistance to it, and really kind of keep the focus back. I think the best one, is very interesting, because I would understand it really, really well, person, for myself. But now you look at, football or soccer, doesn't matter how you look at it, and you start looking at the teams and change of managements, and you start to look at it in a very different formats than you're just supporting a team.
Yeah.
So such a great examples there that you can actually utilize with the team building exercises.
Well, because it's a business.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it is a business and everybody must be performing on the pitch. Otherwise, you won't get anywhere and you're not going to be within that team for a very, very long time, you know? So it's very interesting how, like, what are the lessons learned from this type of activities or you know, and I like football because there's even more people involved on the pitch. There's more like positions. It's kind of similar to a
Yeah.
coffee shop of 12 people operation. You know?
Yeah. I like that analogy.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
I want to ask you, when it comes to the team and when it comes to the culture, and we have a year like 2025, do you take the approach when making decisions to keep your team informed about the volatility of 2025, or do you let them
100%.
learn it all on their own?
No, I think people normally they have a lot of other things in their life, you know what I mean? Like everybody has their own thing to be worried about.
Yep.
I think some coffee pricing, unfortunately, is something that not many people have them as their top priority.
Jeez, I'm so surprised by that. Everyone in my life knows whether they're in coffee or not. They know the fuck what's going on in coffee.
Even if they work in cafe, that doesn't mean they are aware
Exactly
of what's actually going on. So I think it's very, very crucial and very, very important to share the challenges that the business overall facing. That way they at least know that what is going on around them, so they don't take it for granted. Some people might say, yeah, whatever, but at the end of the day, they're gonna feel it, you know, because if they're not taking part of that team, you know, and you really need to be firm sometimes. Sometimes you cannot just let loose. You have to be, no, it's gonna go this way, and this is the only way we're moving forward. You know, and also say it's my own responsibility. I take fully. You know, the accountability these days, nobody wants it.
No, leadership's different. Leadership is forming into a different beast in 2025 with all the geopolitics that's going on, with shifts in government policy, with the wars that are going on, with what's going on in economics and in business. People are washing their hands of any kind of accountability, which kind of sets us up in a really interesting way for the third episode of the series. And we're going to talk about the role of innovation in times of crisis. Because when people are not taking accountability, you have to innovate in order to keep the business moving. And how do you build accountability into the system so that the accountability comes from technology and from different places rather than needing to come from humans? So join us for the third episode of this series, folks. Peace, love, and peanut butter. Have an amazing rest of your day. I really hope you enjoyed this episode, friends. Please don't forget to show us some love by subscribing, liking, commenting, and most of all, sharing this podcast with your friends. Check the show notes for links, including our sponsors and our Patreon. And stay tuned for more great conversations on the Daily Coffee Pro by Map It Forward.